But the goal for today is to share with you the why, how, what presentation for the common objection that we're receiving right now, which is I'm concerned about the housing market. Meaning, how do we present with confidence in a quick 15 to 20 minutes max, whether it be over the phone, whether it be via Zoom. I am always a fan of showing stats, articles, features, so then that way people can relate to things like graphs and other aspects that they, based on their learning style, if they're visual, if they're kinesthetic, they need to go out and do it, So for most people, though, when they're absorbing education from something that they're not going to necessarily go teach, but it's supposed to help them believe, is that people have shared visual as one of the best practices. So I'm going to put together a visual slide for you today. I will send you this PDF, and then you guys can create it any way you want to be able to have as a presentation tool, something you can send out via email, but most importantly, your ability to help influence how somebody feels about the housing market. But before I go over it, what I want to break down is how important the why, how, what model is, and how many times you may have read certain authors like Simon Sinek, who has a book called Start With Why, and he talks about in selling, starting with why is much more important. But for all of us business operators, you're part of team coaching, you're a coaching client. What you understand is like, we care about our goal, our what. So a lot of us start the reverse way around. And what I mean by that is, Reagan, I'm sure you have a what. And what I mean by that is, what do you want to accomplish this year? I want to sell 30 homes in 2022, or I want to list 30 homes in 2022. So if you're taking notes, the what is the goal. So for most of us, the what is the end goal that we're putting together, which is what we want somebody to do. So why this presentation is broken down in why, how, or what is that we want to start with the opposite of what we tend to do, which is most of us are focused on our goal, which we should be, but then the how for many of us is either a process or an activity. Meaning, well, if my goal is to list 30 homes in 2022, how do I do that? We know it's most likely an aspect of sales and marketing, which involves prospecting, producing content, video, following up with leads, and going on appointments. The goal for today, as I talked about how to present the why, how, what market, is it will help you better prepare for appointments that aren't necessarily, I want to sell today, or I want to buy a home today. But when you're following up with leads, like Tom has been saying, if you could say, hey, Lacey, would it be worth 15 minutes of your time to jump on the phone or jump on Zoom so I could share with you why the market's doing what it's doing, how it's impacting us in your guys' direct city or state, and more importantly, what people are doing about it and what impact it's going to have on you today, Lacey, and most likely the future as a homeowner, as a renter, whatever they are as a segment of the leads or the prospects that you're talking to. And what Tom is hoping is that more of us are able to book appointments that aren't come list me. He's been talking about this for about 18 months. He said, we need more strategy sessions. We need more coffee table appointments that are really talking to people about their plans with their real estate over the next couple years. He's been really talking about this since COVID, meaning, you know what? People are just a little confused right now. They don't know exactly what to do. So we can't really go back to the ways we used to book appointments, which is I'm going to come to your house for a listing presentation or meet at my office and let's talk about buying a home, because of those two big reasons. Now, over the next 2 weeks, next week, I'm actually going to teach you the why, how, what process presentation, meaning how do you share with people the process they can take if what happened at the end of this presentation was now you overcame the objection of their concern for the market, meaning now you have presented, all right, a reason for why the market is very strong. And as I said, the what is usually a goal, The how is usually a process or an activity, and the why is a reason. So what I want us to have is more reasons for appointments. And that reason would be a strategy session for the number one topic people have no problem talking about, which is I will definitely give you a little bit of time to educate me on what's happening in the market. Door knocking, for some of you who come from the past, and you door knocked. One of the best things for door knocking was just market updates, right? Ding dong, here's a market update. Just wanted you to know what's happening in the neighborhood. And people will talk about things like the price of their home or the value of their home. They'll talk about what's happening in the neighborhood, what's being built, what impact does that have on the school and the community. But what they don't really want to talk about when you door knock is selling their home. So the goal, as we talked about this, is to have more appointments as you guys are prospecting, as you guys are following up with leads, to say, hey, you know what, Scott, why don't we jump on a 15-minute Zoom session? So then that way we can come up with the strategy based off of why the market's doing what it's doing, how it's impacting us here locally in Athens, and most importantly, what that means for you and what you can see that's going to happen in the future of real estate. Would that be worth 15 minutes of your time? And that's really what we're trying to do. And I was talking to a great team here locally yesterday. And we were talking about one of the challenges for why we probably don't have this script that Tom's talking about is because we don't really have a strategy session presentation, meaning like, I have a listing presentation, Justin. Look, I'm ready. If somebody wants to list a home, I'm going to knock it out of the park. But we don't really have our strategy session. And there's going to be 3 different strategies based off where they're at. If you really haven't qualified them a lot, anybody will give you a little bit of time to talk about the market. So that's your first appointment. If there's somebody who actually is confident about the market, but they're concerned with, well, how do I go find a home in this competitive market? I heard it's so terrible. That's the process, why, how, what strategy session. I'm going to cover that next week. And then the following week, we're going to talk about how to present yourself and your company and some of the tools that you guys have. So let's dive right into the presentation today. And remember, I'm going to send you all these slides, but most importantly, I'm going to make sure that you have the ability to build your own, so that way you can speak with the level of confidence. My goal is to deliver this in less than 10 to 15 minutes. So that way you can see, okay, you know what? I really can, in a quick amount of time, share with people why the market's doing what it's doing, how that impacts us locally here in Scottsdale, Efren. And then more importantly, what does that mean to you as a homeowner? What does that mean to you as a renter? And what can you expect in the future with the market? And now, Efren, you can use this in the content you're producing. You can do your monthly show really around the market conditions, but it just gives you a process to be able to teach from reason, process, and goal. And if your goal is that you guys want more people to get in this market and list their property, we got to start educating them on the concern of that this is a safe market to be in. So then that way, that concern and that objection is overcome. Now we can get into a true concern, which really is, you're right, super low inventory. How the heck do you do that? What are the strategies that you guys have as individuals or Scott at 5 Market that help people based off of your skills, your processes, and the things that you guys do? But we'll cover that next week. So I'm going to share my screen. Anybody have any questions before I share a sample presentation on what I was talking about from the strategy session, to more importantly, making sure that we can get, 10 to 15 minutes of people's time to start the process of finding out what their plans are with their real estate? Because like we know, Realtor.com's been sharing, 1 out of 4 people right now would like to make a change. That's a lot of people that you could be connecting with that would like to make a change. They just don't have the confidence or the know-how. And that's why these strategy sessions are so important. So before I jump in, any questions? If you do, throw it in the chat. If I'm ever bringing something up and in these office hours, it doesn't make sense, or there's something that you want me to relate specifically to you, throw it in the chat, bring those questions. There's nothing silly that you could ever ask. And that's why this is outside of normal coaching calls. So thumbs up, everybody can see my presentation screen. So let's just imagine we were on the phone, Lacey, and I said something like, well, Lacey, let me ask you, are you familiar with what's happening in the housing market right now? And Lacey, why don't you role play with me real quick? What would you say?
Yeah, well, I just hear all this stuff on the news that it's just crazy out there.
You know what? It is a very interesting market, and I appreciate you sharing that with me. People are telling me stuff they're hearing on the news, social media, their friends. But has anybody told you what the experts are saying about the housing market right now?
No.
Okay. So Lacey's no is technically a permission of authority for me to present. Okay. So this could be done over a prospecting call at an open house where you talk to somebody, but what you want to ask them is, are you familiar with what the experts are saying? And this is why you're going to use data, because the experts are the ones that they're going to most likely start changing how they feel about the market versus sometimes us trying to win them over ourselves in the beginning. We're salespeople, we're real estate agents, unfortunately, not the best of reputation. So through education, hopefully we can build rapport and trust. So I like keeping current matters for the why part, which is the global or national reasoning to the housing market. The how is the local side, but why is the housing market doing what it's doing, Lacey, is because of what's happened nationwide. So right now, let me just share with you is all of the money in the world predominantly, but most importantly here in America, believes that as the value of the dollar becomes more challenging, one of the safest places to put your money or your investment would be real estate. So who does this include? This includes the hedge funds, the trusts, the businesses that are responsible for investing the world's money. They're saying right now that with a lot of what's happening all around the world and nationally, that one of the safest places for them is to put it in real estate. Now, why is that? You're going to see I keep saying why just in helping connect the dots for us. And why is that, Lacey? Is because if you can see since the 70s, is that real estate appreciation has been a great indicator on where values will be in housing. So as we're seeing inflation, Reagan, right now rise, most experts know that that's an indication that another area that will appreciate at a greater rate than that is real estate. So for a lot of experts, they feel very comfortable that housing appreciation is going to continue to rise. This is a stat most people don't know. Like nobody's really taken it to a level of inflation to appreciation. We've always talked supply, demand, the common things, but this is just a great one, okay? So now, as you can see, there's also some challenges with what that does with rental rates. And what I mean by that, Lacey, is one of the safe things about making a change in your real estate right now is that it's a fixed rate. So no matter what starts happening with money, you can lock yourself in to a fixed situation that you're comfortable with right now through a standard mortgage. That's another reason why many people like real estate during what's happening with the nation and or the world right now. And so as you can see here, again, rent increases continue to rise greater than inflation. So the challenge as a renter is if my dollar means less, but rent is going up even more, this makes it much worse for the situation of those who don't own a single asset. So you can see if I'm talking to a renter group, this would be a very important to let them know, like it's going to get even worse being a renter who doesn't have that singular aspect of one asset. I'm not saying selling your home that's an asset to get another one. I'm saying to make sure we have one of those. So as you can also see, why real estate's doing what it's doing and what the experts are suggesting is that rates have comparatively stayed low over the last 5 decades. So as you can see, since the 70s, the current rate of about 3.5% is extremely low. So why are a lot of people getting into housing is because they realize that it's still a very affordable fixed cost to their living situation versus anything else. And as you can see here, some of us may not know this. This would be a good presentation slide for a first-time home buyer or somebody, you know what I mean, to let them know that. And when you look going all the way back to 2018, you can see that the rates are still extremely low. Even if we go above 4 to 4.5%, we're still in a great position of affordability based off of where we were in 2018. Now, I'm not a rate expert, but if you want a little piece of information, as you can see here, since 1972, the relationship to the 10-year treasury is what leads to the relationship of where mortgage rates are going. So when you hear experts talk about rates, this is just the type of stuff they follow. But again, as I was sharing with you, why real estate is doing what it's doing right now, meaning, is it just a bunch of crazy people, or is it actually crazy to not be involved in it? Is let me share with you the safety of what's been happening. When we went through COVID and the pandemic, we had a lot of people go on something called forbearance. It was where the mortgage loan that they had and the banks they were working with were helping them with their loans. As you can see here, we had over 4 million people partake in that back in May of 2020. And as you can see, we have almost wiped that completely out, and people are back in line with their mortgage, paying their fixed normal rate. So Lacey, why I bring this up is, have you ever been concerned that what if something really bad happens? What will you do if you ended up buying a home or had a mortgage? This is an example of most of the time our economy and our government and our regulations are going to work with you. And as long as you're smart about what you can afford and purchase, which I always advise people through this process, is most of the time, because it's fixed, you're going to have a good experience of going through challenges that we may be able to expect or unforeseen, like we just handled. But as I also want to share with you is, as you can see here, look at the number of foreclosures back in 2017, is that we are historically having the least amount of foreclosures we ever have. So again, why are a lot of people getting into real estate is because it's really just a lot of our friends, people on social media, the news, that talk about things like, I'm going to wait. And guess what? That information, unfortunately, is not the same as the experts here that are sharing. If you're waiting for something like foreclosures or a great buyer's market to come, you're most likely going to be waiting for a long time. As you can see, this is going back to even before the mortgage crisis. We still historically are at an all-time low year end when it comes to foreclosure activity. This is a graph that's even more impressive from 2012. You can see why were foreclosures so important back then is because homes were distressed, meaning 1 out of every 3 homes was below the value of the mortgage. Compared to now, you can see almost nobody is below the value of what their mortgage is, which is why we're poised to have a very strong housing market. Now, what I want to share with you is, why is this happening? As you can see, the last decade, we have not built homes. So now we get into why is this really happening, is it's not consumer driven, it's economics, law of supply and demand. Population is growing, we're not building homes. And as you can see, this is a standard market. So Reagan, are you familiar with the definition of a seller's market, neutral market, or buyer's market? And you can see the definition is home prices will depreciate. Home prices will appreciate with inflation. Okay, that one right there scares me. A neutral market. Seller's market, less than 6 months, home prices will appreciate. So what I mean by this is, let's look at where we're at today. You can see that housing inventory is lower now than it was last year. Many people know that, but here is a national statistic since 2019. We are at 2.1 months of inventory as a nation. 6 months is entering a seller's market. So when you look at going all the way back to 2019 to where we are today, these are the graphs that until we start to see these start to increase, most likely, and with a high level predictability, if we remain in low inventory, what will happen with home prices? They're going to go up, okay? It's not about my personal belief. It's about understanding this. And here is what people are thinking over the next 5 years. The optimists, which have been right over the last several years, okay, are saying another 62% increase. This is nationwide. Okay, so you didn't miss the boat. All right, if you don't worry, you haven't made a change. Okay, all of them, including the pessimists, are saying about a 43% appreciation growth. So now, as you look at this, what's happening is the world is getting richer if they own assets. All right. So for me, why I do real estate is to help people like you who are renting have more intelligence and information to things like this. So you can have somebody who's an advocate in supporting you and sharing with you my belief around what I do believe you should do. And I believe that we should work every day on trying to get you into your first asset versus waiting for what I do not see. And let me ask you, Sean, let me ask you, Jennifer, based on what I'm sharing with you on why the market's doing what's doing, do you see it changing? Do you see it becoming a buyer's market? Do you see home values going? The goal is to help people really better understand. I probably should stop listening to all my friends. I should probably stop listening to other people tell me. And so here, as you can see, Lacey, why I'm showing you these real quick is the average person in Colorado made $80,000 last year. The average person in Oregon, average person in Washington, I'll just start using your guys' states, right? The average person in Georgia, $50,000 in one singular year during what most people, that was an economically challenging time that they actually needed help from the government to make money. So as we look at wealth creation, this is also what I want to show you, Lacey, is a lot of people don't realize this, but since 2014 and now, there are more people doing this thing called real estate. So we're actually seeing more people involved in it. The problem is it's just happening so fast. But I just want to let you know that if you're thinking a lot of people aren't doing real estate, meaning selling and buying, more people are selling and buying now than they ever have. It's just, we don't feel like that because of what we're hearing about the markets, which is why I'm really glad we met. So I could tell you why the market's doing what it's doing. And now let's dive into how that impacts you. Okay. So the singular difference between the net worth of a renter and a homeowner right now in America is almost $240,000. And this is why it continues to remain the number one investment choice for people in America. Now, here's what I want to share with you on how that's impacting us locally. In Colorado, just month over month, home values rose by 7% in 1 month. Right there, I just literally had to stop when I got this information because I was like, oh my gosh. But it's truthfully, I'm letting people know that Denver, Colorado is the new California. Okay, just soon people are gonna have to go far away from our geo, our metro, our city, just like San Francisco, San Diego. And I have some proof to share my personal belief, but I want to make sure that I'm sharing this with people. Okay, so how is this also impacting people? Is, as you can see, we did see an increase of 20% more listings last month. So more homes are coming to the market, which is great for people being a buyer. The challenge with that is look where we're at historically since 1985. And so as you look at this graph, Sean, you let me know, does that look like a V? Does that look like a U? Or does that not even look like we've hit the bottom of the U yet? Which again, is why I'm predicting, at least here locally, we probably have more years than the nation, meaning the nation might see 60% appreciation over the next 5, Lacey, but we might see 120%, meaning your $600,000 home is worth 1.2 million in about 7 years. And I don't think that's very far off when you look at some of history and the great cities that have done those similar things based off the economies they have. Now, as you can see here, months of supply, we're at 0.2 months of inventory. So again, when we look at what is this representing, is as a homeowner, you have a lot of options. Now, again, I want you to better understand how does that impact you is population growth, along with the lack of homes being built like we were sharing, shows right here where the projection of inventory is most likely going to remain. As you can see, the last time that we were in a neutral market was back in 2010. So we've taken 11 years to get to where we are now. Most likely, when you look at, we don't have what got us there last time, which was fraudulent mortgage practice. They weren't fixed rates, right? People had all of a sudden pay double their mortgage payment 3 years later, thinking that life was just going to be so good. It was poor practice. So we probably have a good 10 to 15 years till we ever get back to that neutral market. Now, again, I'm just sharing you the data. Could something happen? Yes, but the reality is most likely not. So how is this impacting us if we want to be in the market, Lacey? Is that the average list price to close price is 5%. So I'm going to talk to you if you want to work with me and move forward into learning about this market on how we win properties. But I just want you to know how this is impacting is that people selling are getting 5% more on average than what they list at, as well as people purchasing, they're spending 5% more. However, what did we learn? Last month, they rose by 7%. So you spending 5% more than the list price actually nets you a 2% gain in a singular month, which is not bad at all when you look at the appreciation of your home. Remember, I was telling you my thoughts around what our city might look like here in the future? Look at when it comes to the relationship between the price of homes and renters, meaning non-owner occupants, is that the average price of the home is equivalent to places almost like Los Angeles, Honolulu, Washington. And so again, my concern is where we are on a trajectory over the next, not just 5 years, but maybe 10 of creeping up to places like San Francisco and Manhattan. And so I share this with you because what impact does it have to you, Lacey? As a renter, as you can see that the price appreciation gets beat by rental rates, meaning as prices go up, people who own homes that then rent them to people know that I can increase it even more, which makes it even harder. And as you can see here, the challenge with that is that in just 1 to 2 years, we saw a loss of about $103,000 in just a 2-bedroom home in Colorado. So my goal for you, obviously, is what does this mean for you? Is that equity and wealth creation, but more importantly, your ability to make decisions is it's not too late. What we have to figure out is what are some of the plans and what you would want to do. And what's exciting about that is I can ask you, is Lacey seeing all of this? You're probably like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of information. But once you hear all of it now from the experts and the data, what are your plans with your property over the next 2 to 3 years? And it's over.
Okay. Well, gosh, it makes me want to buy more property or really buy a house right now.
Okay. And that's where the goal is. And this is obviously best done in conversation. I wanted to hit our time. So it's right at 15 minutes. Okay. Is now it's what does the impact have to you, but then what are your plans? Okay. And the other part with that is what are your plans? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? What does it make you think? So then that way, the next step, we remember I said next week, I'm going to share the why, how, what process presentation is. Okay, so if your reason is that you're not in the perfect home or you want to make a change to go somewhere else, now I can share with you how process and activity we go out and help you. But there's usually 2 things, whether they're a buyer or seller, that we would want to move forward with next, which is if Lacey says, well, you know what? I mean, in the next couple of years, I think we would like to make a change. Maybe it's in a year, maybe it's even sooner. As I look at this now, I guess it makes more sense based on what the rates are doing, appreciation, that, gosh, if we can do this sooner, this might be better. So, well, then what's next, Lacey, is let's get the accurate value of your home. So do you see? So now, why would you get the accurate value of your home? And so then that way I can share with you how that's going to impact you if you want to enter the market. Why would we go get approved by a lender is so I can share with you how, what you're qualified for. And this is where then after a presentation, hopefully you can get them into the next steps, which is searching on your website, meeting with the lender, any of those things now that they have more confidence about the market. So I'm going to send you all these slides. There's a lot more on here though. So let's just say you serve a luxury market. Maybe I'm going to rotate some of these slides out. I was just giving you a sample slides that I like because they're general, but these are what I would use in a listing presentation. What I'd use in a buyer's presentation to educate people really around list price to sell price, inventory, days on market, stuff like that. But you can also use the luxury market trends. If you, there's the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing, which is a certification, CLHMS. So if you guys want to be luxury, it's an awesome course you can take. And then you get all their cool market information around what's happening in luxury. You can also, for some of you guys locally, and why I'm giving this, Lacey, as a sample to you, is you can take these to your local escrow mortgage marketing team and say, hey, make this for me, like find my information. But this is just First Alliance Title here locally, does these quarterly. And you can kind of see like they give us really all that information on what's happening on different homes per square feet, what's happening when it comes to, you know, the average months of inventory based on size of home. So you can see, oh, 6,000 plus is actually a half a month of inventory. That's a lot different than that 0.2. So now I can speak differently based off the segment or the goal of somebody, showing trends. So then that way we kind of know, are we doing good or bad on a listing, right? Meaning what should we expect on average? And there's just all kinds of other stuff, you know, that's more local, but keeping current matters will always give you national market information. And then your title companies and those places should be able to give you some local, but I'm going to send this all to you. Sean, I saw your hand up. If anybody has to go, I know we're a little bit over office hours, but quite a bit of stuff to unpack. So Sean, go ahead.
Could we take some of these slides and do like a video on one slide?
All day. So when people say 30 videos in 30 days is too much, I say, hey, remember, Tom did not this week, but the week before, Jason Pantana and him did the 5 types of personalities that you can have on video. Cause he was like, I know some of you don't want to dance on TikTok. I know some of you aren't funny, but one of them was just like the hyper local expert. And he was like, look, if every day you just shared, you know what I mean, some context. So 100%, Sean, you could use each of these just for a day, and every day you're just blasting out. So that's what I was saying when we kind of kicked off. This is a presentation, but it could be done over the phone. It could be done over video. It could be done over Zoom. It's just depending on the audience, right, that you're targeting. And if it's for your videos, I think that's a great idea. Yep.
Thanks.
What other questions, comments, thoughts, challenges, anything?
How about a thank you, Justin?
Oh, Becca,
Thank you.
always welcome.
This
Now,
is really good.
I'm
And I
learning
love-
what's
fun. Yeah. And I think that it builds confidence too, right?
Here's the thing. We have to risk being wrong, guys, meaning we have to trust the experts of our industry. Okay. There's people that are, and I mean this very sincerely, right? Like the world has looked to the experts to share, how do we combat a pandemic, right? And, you know, there's groups that say, hey, this is what you need to do. And there's groups that say, this is what you need to do without the necessarily fear of being wrong. It's their belief of giving advice, right? Meaning their belief and conviction that says, hey, somebody here has to step up and be an expert. And sometimes you're right. I was wrong. But I think people, if it's not, I was wrong because of my own opinion versus I was articulating my belief based off what the experts in my industry shared with me, I hope that nobody would ever take me, you know what I mean, what I would consider as false or negative or distrust. What they would say is, you know what? A lot of us got that wrong. And guess what? When we get it right, a lot of us are also going to say, you got to talk to Lacey. Why? Because I remember the first time I met with her, she shared with me what was actually happening more than any other person that just is out there sharing humor. And I'm not saying that the video, you know what I mean? Humor's great. The fun of like, gosh, getting beat by 80 operas. But I'm saying we need to get this information in front of more people so they go, you know what? I don't think I should wait. I think based on what we're doing, and that's how you guys obviously as coaching clients, how do we win this quarter versus, you know what I mean, next year is what we want to do. So the why, how, what thumbs up. Does everybody get why the presentation is made that way? Okay, awesome. And then any challenges with just your ability to put something together like that? So that way, if you're going on a listing presentation, you could first start off with, let me share with you why the market's doing what it's doing. So that way, then you can gain that authority when you go into, so how we're going to list your properties based on this pricing strategy. So you see how now it allows you to move into different ways of what you're going to do. But did anybody find a challenge with it or just a struggle? All right. Well, then this is the best presentation I've ever done. Thank you guys. But if you do come up with some, shoot me an email. I'll send you over the slides, but start building out yours. So then that way, remember, it sounds like this when you close. You know what, Sean, I know I was just connecting with you, inquiring on a home on Zillow, but based on your time frame and a little bit of what you're sharing me, you're looking for, are you through with the next steps that you and I should take? No, I'm not. Okay, well, what we need to do is schedule a 15-minute strategy session so I can share with you why the market's doing what it's doing, how that's going to impact you over the next 6 months while you're figuring out where you guys want to live, relocating to any reason of what they share with you. And then that way, more importantly, when the time comes, you know what you can do, and more importantly, what to be prepared for when it comes to entering the housing market here in Maine, here in Georgia, here in Colorado. Does tomorrow morning or in the evening work better for you? And then you have a confidence more on booking an appointment, Lacey, whether it be a Zillow lead, you're exiting an open house lead, any type of lead or prospecting call that you're using Tom scripts is now we should have a reason that's not to follow up with you like in 90 days. It's let's book a 10-minute session, a 15-minute session. So I could talk to you about why the market's doing what it's doing, how it's going to impact you locally here. And more importantly, what you can expect, whether you buy a home today or you decide in 2 years, and you can see how now it's almost a relatable appointment to somebody who says they're just looking for the future, or somebody who's like, I want to buy now. Gets us the opportunity to be in front of them. Go ahead, Lacey.
So if in that situation, we're normally trying to book that buyer consultation, but we're doing this instead, then how do you frame for that next full buyer consultation?
Yeah, great question. Okay, so here's the thing. How long does your buyer's consult usually take?
An hour.
Okay, so you're still going to do your buyer's consult. It's just you're adding some of the why into the beginning. So, hey, you know what? In my consultation, one of the things I always love to do before I tell you how I help you buy a home, I want to tell you why the market's doing what it's doing. So you better understand how we need to behave when we go out in the market.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
The goal is each of these will be a little bit of a different presentation. So like next week, that's what I'm going to kind of share with you is more of like a process, meaning it's a buyer's consult, it's a listing, you know what I mean? You're going to share with them, but eventually you'll put all three together. So you answer kind of my question is, hey, I'm going to share with you why the market's doing what it's doing so you're confident. I'm going to share with you how I help you as a consult. And then lastly, what I'm going to share with you is why you should choose me. You know what I mean? So it's almost like this 1 hour presentation, but I'm just saying most people that are a little ways out or aren't committed and you want to get to the root cause of what are their plans is a 10 to 15 minute strategy session. A lot of people would be okay if you presented that way, because a lot of them would love to learn more about what's exactly happening in the market. And you could tell them that you have some slides you're going to send them. You can't wait to review it with them. And most importantly, Lacey, most people who then one day decide to buy or sell a home with myself is that they say this was one of the most impactful appointments we've ever had because they finally got information that was accurate to what the experts are saying versus just what they're hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So you have to sell it with confidence. And then obviously you're not going to change your consult. You're just going to add a little bit in there around what's happening in the market now. So then that way you can position yourself with a little more authority as you talk to them about what it's going to take to win.
Right.
And now they're like, oh, that makes sense.
Or offer this 15-minute one to certain ones where that might be a better fit.
Yeah, exactly. Time frame. You got it. And you're going to gauge this. I just wanted to get through the whole presentation so you can see a sample in 15 minutes. But maybe it should be 30. Why? Because you ask more questions, you engage with the person more, make it consultative. But I wanted to show you the flow. I wanted to role play.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Cool. All right. Have an amazing week, guys. See ya.
Thank you so much.
Always. Bye.
Thank you, Justin.